All right, guys. We are talking strategy today. We're giving you our secrets.
We've talked a lot about periodization in many other podcasts and most recently on Monday. So we thought we should bring it back. Let's talk about what is periodization? Why do we use it with our clients? Why is it important? What are the phases? Give you all the insider details. And hopefully you will take this and apply it. Because we know a lot of people struggle to apply things. And that's where knowledge is useless if we're not applying it, right?
That's what I hate. Like, I read a post the other day that was like, it's 2021. We don't need more information on nutrition on Google. Like, we don't need to Google more nutrition information. We probably need a plan and accountability to accomplish that plan.
That would be very true. I would agree with that.
There's just and like, you guys, how do you not notice the trends of like, we had, low fat in the 80s and the 90s, and then we had low carb, and now low carb is coming around again. And like, it's just, they all get called different things. Atkins was basically keto. Keto is just a little bit more extreme. Like, it is all just a shiny new object with a new name, but we don't adhere to anything long term. And that's the problem. So that's what periodization is. So why is periodization important? It's a tool, and it's a very effective tool. And like, people that maintain, or people that lose weight and maintain and don't realize they're doing this, are probably doing this. And so nutrition periodization basically helps people accomplish fat loss goals, better muscle composition, body composition, healthier bodies, meaning like your hormones are well balanced and regulated. You have more metabolic flexibility, which is a huge thing in terms of how your body uses its energy source. But most importantly, it is what helps people sustain results. Like, it is very underutilized, and honestly, in a fat loss strategy, like, a big part of the reason that people regain weight is because they don't use nutritional periodization.
Yep. And the stats tell us, like 95 to 98% of people regain their weight within a couple of years. Yep. And so one of the reasons that we use this model and this strategic method is because we see all of the damage that's been done from years and years of chronic dieting or yo-yoing back and forth, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm eating 1,200 calories and then I'm going off of the rails. And, mentally there's components here that are hard, physically, but also physiologically. And we've talked about that many of times, but we have to understand, like, this eat less and move more until you hit your goal model is broken. Okay. Mm-hmm. And we're not saying that calories in and calories out, that energy balance doesn't matter, but it's not the most important factor for fat loss, because if your body is not in a place where it is healthy and feels safe, you're going to keep spinning your wheels. Like, at the end of the day, you can cut calories and do more cardio, but if you're not seeing results, then this is a telltale sign you need to eat more. You need to move less. You need to heal your body, because you can't diet forever. The body doesn't work that way. There's always going to be the adaptation. And a couple other signs that we'd say to kind of watch out for in this eat less, move more model is that your sleep is taking a hit. You're not sleeping through the night, or you're waking up not feeling rested. You're having trouble falling asleep. Digestively, you might be feeling like constipated or bloated or gassy, maybe alternating back and forth between diarrhea and constipation. Like, there's a whole host of symptoms here that are your body's check engine lights to tell you, I need more food. I need more nourishment. So we use periodization in the way that helps our clients offset all of those negative symptoms. So we want to keep them feeling good. Obviously, yes, they're going to feel a little bit hungry when we're in a calorie deficit, but we don't want some of these major symptoms showing up. And so this is kind of where we will go through different phases, which we're going to talk about, to make sure that they don't adapt and that they don't experience those symptoms.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is hard for a lot of people, because a lot of people are like, well, if I'm not at my goal yet, why would I stop being in a calorie deficit? Mm-hmm. Exactly what Liz just said, because these biofeedback markers are indications that your body's not doing well and it needs support. It needs replenishment, per se. So what is periodization technically? Periodization is basically splitting time up into blocks. Each block is focused on creating a different adaptation or outcome from the body, but all of the blocks synchronize together to push towards that specific goal of yours, at the end of a time period. For example, like squatting a specific weight, or hitting a certain body fat or weight goal, or, getting to vacate, whatever it is. Like, there's all these different types of end things. we also think long-term health. Like that is, periodization works within that model as well. So with fitness, periodization is something that like coaches obviously apply with training cycles, blocks of training cycles, deload weeks, stuff like that. And we have, high intensity weeks, high volume weeks, deload weeks. If you do Strong U, our dumbbell home program, like we do that. We adjust all of these things to make sure that the body doesn't burn out. You guys, this is why things like F45 and Orange Theory, don't get me wrong, I love high intensity training. I think that it can be really beneficial to people, but the problem is they do high intensity every single fucking day, which is not good for your body. And there's people that don't know any better that go to it every single day. And then maybe do more workouts because they think, well, if I do more, I'll get to a place that I want to go faster, or I'll get there to a better place than that and I'll get more lean. But in the end, typically what happens is people burn out and their bodies start failing them, and then they feel like shit. And then they come to us. But anyways, the periodization piece is that in nutrition, we have to think about, okay, we want to lose weight. Awesome. We have a weight loss goal. That's fine. We want to gain better health. Great. We need to go about that in terms of phases, because those phases are what allow the body to not adapt. It's what allows the body to keep a state of health that is going to allow for weight loss, because that is the first phase that we take people through that people do not consider. They get into a place where mentally they want to lose weight fast. They're in a frustrated place with their body. They're angry, they're upset, whatever. And you dive straight into an extreme diet. When in reality, what most people should be doing is the first phase of periodization that we pay attention to with a new client, which is the priming phase.
Yep.
We call it like the health phase.
Yeah. So when we look at phases of periodization, there's 4 phases. Okay. There's going to be the priming phase. That's priming you for your fat loss phase, which is phase 2. Then we have a maintenance phase where we maintain that fat loss that we have achieved. And then the 4th phase is either a building phase where you decide that you want to go through an intentional strength and muscle building phase, or for some people this will be kind of like their off season where it's like a vacation, right? But at any point in time, we have to listen to that biofeedback. So somebody asked me the other day, is like, you keep saying biofeedback, what is that? So we've talked about this before, but things that we're looking at, think about it in HEC or shreds in some of these
Schmeck or shreds.
Yeah.
We stole those from a couple people that we really like. Jade Tata and Sam Miller have those acronyms, but it's basically an acronym for your biofeedback.
So, stress, hunger, energy, digestion, recovery, sleep, right? How are you doing with all of these things? And if you're finding that you're struggling with these things, then you probably need to go to the next phase or go back to the maintenance phase. So what is the priming phase? The priming phase is the period of time that we take all clients through that start with us of just getting consistent. And that time frame kind of varies. It depends upon where the client is at, where they have been, what diet protocols they've done. Are we going through, a healing phase in terms of, gut health, or just restoring their metabolism because they have been dieting forever? We want to get them to a place that they have consistently been eating enough calories so that we can prime the body for fat loss. Okay. Yep. And so a couple of things here. Number one is we always want to look at like the dysfunction in the body. Like, where are things going south? Is there insulin resistance? Are we struggling with sleep? Are there hormonal imbalances? Like, our periods all over the place. We're having, poor PMS, or bad PMS, sometimes I should say, with like headaches or migraines, bloating, cramping, all those types of things, mood swings. Again, is there gut issues, leaky gut, IBS, dysbiosis, heartburn, things like that. And we want to make sure that we get all of those things righted, or put all of those symptoms at bay and fix those things and build a solid foundation before we move to the fat loss phase. So in that foundational phase, we're looking here at consistency. So are we swinging low to high, or are we pretty consistent? I would say within like 200 calories, like all 7 days of the week. What does the quality of food look right? Like, we want to make sure that we're getting the most from our food in terms of nutrients. Therefore, we want to be consuming whole, unprocessed foods. That's going to support your body and how it functions, how you feel. And then most importantly in this phase is understanding food, like how to know what is in food. Knowing how your body also responds to certain foods is really, really important. And then how to track intake and how to do that correctly, because that's going to be really crucial when they get to the fat loss phase.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people wonder, like, if I want to lose weight, why am I not in a calorie deficit, or why am I not, like, when can we go there? We need to heal the body first, because if the body is not, one, consistently getting adequate intake, it's not going to respond to a calorie deficit, because you're probably up and down and up and down. So it hasn't gotten used to a specific calorie intake. So the consistency there is huge. And also, if you are not well in terms of, like, your gut is dysfunctional, or you aren't sleeping through the night, or you have a hormonal situation going on, you guys, these things get in the way of our ability to burn body fat. And so what Liz and I believe, and what our coaches believe, is, why would I put you into a fat loss phase and just run you into the wall right now to maybe lose a couple pounds, but end up in a worse spot? Like, we want to set people up for success, which is why we do these things. That's like, I want to set you up for a home run, not like a ground out to second. Like, we need to get ourselves, like, both times we hit the ball, sure, but which one are we better off for, you know? And so we need to set the body up to be in such a good space that the weight loss phase is actually easy. And guess what? Anyone can do the fucking weight loss phase. Anyone can cut calories. Anyone can follow low carb. Like, that's the easy thing that people want to do. The hard stuff that people won't do on their own is they won't heal their body. They won't build consistency, which is why we take our clients through it first, because you need support during this phase, in my opinion. It's hard to do this on your own. The other pieces, you have to recover from your last diet. Most people that come to us have been dieting for a long time. They've tried a lot of different things. And depending on how long you've dieted, or how long ago, you dieted, we have to take a recovery period, which is what we're going to talk about in the second part of this podcast. Part 2 is like the maintenance period, and that period after the fat loss phase that most people don't do, because this recovery period helps recover the hormones we talked about on Monday that get impacted by dieting: testosterone, cortisol, thyroid. You need to get those back to, like, healthy and normal levels. This can take anywhere from 2 to 4 to 12 to 24 months. Like, you guys, this is something that is very hard to hear for some people. If you are very unwell in terms of, like, you have complete adrenal fatigue and burnout, you're exhausted all day long, you can't stay awake at work, you don't sleep well through the night, you have horrible gut dysfunction, like, these things take time, guys. A lot of times you can start feeling better a little bit right away, but we have clients absolutely that, like, we think that the body is ready, and then we go into a fat loss phase and the body shows us very clearly that it is not ready. And so I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. This was the case for me. Sometimes this takes 6 to 12 months plus. Like, depending on how sick the body is, or how unwell the body is, this can take a long time.
But for you, and I think a lot of people out there, you have to understand that it's necessary to...
It's 1000% necessary.
to see further results. Like, if you're already running your body into the ground, doing high intensity 6 days a week, eating 1,200, 1,300 calories, and you're not seeing change, if you don't reverse from that and allow your body to heal, you will never see change. I just had a conversation with a lady who was interested in coaching with us the other day, and she said she'd spoken with a couple of other people who guaranteed her results. And I flat out told her, I can't guarantee you any results, because what you've been doing for so long has wrecked your body, and you have to heal first. And so within the next 6 to 12 months, I can't tell you how long it's going to take for your body to heal, because I don't also know the extent of the damage that's been done. And so we're very open with people about that. Is like, we will lead you and guide you to get you to your goals, but we cannot tell you it's going to take 3 months to lose 5 pounds or 6 months to lose 20 pounds. Everybody is different. And depending upon where you're coming from, you might have to go through that healing phase, and that's necessary. But on the other side of that, that's one, how you get to live feeling better, have better sex drive, no digestive issues, good energy. You get to gain the strength again, and you get that, lean tone body that you want. But if you don't take this time to get consistent and heal your body, you're never going to get there. That is just hands down.
You run yourself into the wall over and over again. And here's the thing, guys. Sure. Okay. This is going to take maybe 1 to 2 years. If you're in a really bad place in terms of, like, you've really done some damage to the body. And here's the thing. Maybe you didn't know any better. And, like, I knew a little bit better. I'll say I did. But, like, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't know the signs to look for. They don't know what to ask their doctors. They don't know what blood tests to look like. A lot of people don't know those things. And so, heck, okay, you end up in this really poor place. What is more important to you? Take the next 1 to 2 years and heal your body to a point where, like, you can improve your quality of life drastically for the rest of your life? or try and do it in 2 months, go back to trying to lose weight, feel worse, or end up in the same spot over and over again for the next 5 to 10 years, which is what a lot of people do. Like, you just keep trying these different things. And we talk to so many people that it's like, well, I started being constipated, and then I went on PPIs, and then I, stopped sleeping through the night. And it's just this down spiral of things that get compound over and over and over again. You end up on more medications, you end up with more health problems, and it just becomes this vicious downward spiral. And so, like, what sounds better? Taking a year or two and feeling better along the way, and maybe being a little patient with weight loss or body composition change. I'm not saying it never happens during that healing phase, but like, or staying in the same place you're at, maybe getting worse for the rest of your life.
Yeah. I'll take option number 1, please.
I will take door number 1.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Last thing that we want to cover around, the priming phase and just getting consistent is it allows us to optimize our metabolic capacity. So think about your body as like a car, and your metabolism is your gas tank. Okay. We need to take the time to stop and refuel, because anything that you do in order to create a deficit here for fat loss is taking away gas from your metabolism. So this can come from, extra exercise and more calories burned, calorie deficit, removing nutrients and energy from the body. All of these things that we do, I would include here less sleep,
stress,
and stress.
Lots of things.
All the things that like we do day to day in order to achieve, that fat loss, we're essentially taking away gas from the gas tank. And so we need to stop, and we need to pause and refill up the gas tank. And when we do this, we go into that fat loss phase full, ready to deplete. All right. So let's talk about the fat loss phase. This is the sexy part that everybody wants to get to. It's also a huge amount of stress on the body, both physically and mentally, which is why this is short term.
It's periodization. That is what we do this for, guys. Like, this is what so many people come to us wanting to do, and we have to force people to be patient, which is another reason why we take people through that priming phase. Is like, we need to rid you of the all or nothing mindset. We need to rid that, like, I'm either all in or I'm all out. And it tests people, believe us. Like, we have people all the time in that first couple months working with us that they're like, well, what went, like, I'm not seeing results. I'm not losing weight yet. And it's like, well, that's not our focus yet. Our focus is building consistency so that you can lose weight. And that's hard. That's a very hard thing to be patient about. And we get that because you're the hardest part about the priming phase is like, you're focusing on nutrition. It's not like you're not. You're usually tracking your food. You're trying to build consistency. You're still focusing on quality of food. And to be honest, a lot of people in that time period feel better. They start to look better. Body composition changes. Maybe they're not dropping like drastic amounts of weight yet, but it is all setting themselves up for that. And we need the consistency in that priming phase because we have to be consistent in the fat loss phase. We cannot go into that phase lacking consistency, lacking knowledge, and lacking the ability to hit certain intake levels because we don't want to waste the fat loss phase. I don't want to put a stress on your body for nothing. I don't want to drive you into this stress state with low calories for us to just spin our wheels and not actually be effective with it. So think of fat loss phases as the tool within nutrition coaching that we help achieve the results, like the major results with, unless a person's main goal is like health. Obviously this wouldn't be a major part of it, but primer phases and maintenance phases and diet breaks and refeeds, which we're going to talk a little bit more about in the next episode. These are tools that we help you maintain the results. Okay. Along with like optimal health, better hormones, flexible metabolism, better digestion, all that good stuff. But the length of the fat loss phase depends on how much weight that we're looking to lose. And this is kind of tough because this is where a lot of people struggle with the concept of like, well, I just want to stay in the fat loss phase until I lose all the body fat that I want to lose. I want to get to, I want to stay here until I lose the weight. We can't always do that if we have a big weight loss goal. Like if our body is resistant or stubborn or, we don't have a ton of weight to lose, we might need to split that up. We might need to do like certain cycling, which Liz is going to talk about in a second. But the hard thing here is if you have 100 pounds to lose, if you have 50 pounds to lose, we probably aren't going to get there in one shot, guys. Like we're probably going to have to go through multiple fat loss phases with breaks in between to not have the body adapt as quickly. So also, slower rates of weight loss are associated with the ability to build and maintain more muscle. And this leads typically to a better training performance, recovery, strength, muscle. In turn, when you hit your fat loss goals, you have a body that looks leaner, feels stronger, has a better functioning metabolism because, well, muscle is extremely important for a lot of things that help you maintain your weight and maintain health. And also, when we go with this a little bit slower, it reduces the stress on the body. Fat loss is very stressful for your body, guys, both physiologically and psychologically. Extreme diets can drastically alter hormones. They can drastically alter overall health. And so we need to be careful. And that is why we do not go super extreme with calorie deficits with clients, because we want to protect the body. We want to be able to lose that weight long term, and we don't want to run the body into the ground again.
Yep. So the question here becomes, how long should I be in a fat loss phase then, right? Because maybe I've been trying to do this for 2-3 years. What's the proper way that I should really be periodizing my fat loss phase? Okay, so we typically say no more than 12 to 14 weeks in a fat loss phase. And that's rarely a straight deficit all the way through. We know mentally that's very, very hard to adhere to something for 14 weeks straight.
Totally.
Because life happens. But again, like we keep talking about, we want to offset the adaptation. And so what we will do is we will implement refeed days or refeed weeks. We will take, maintenance weeks or just diet breaks in between some of these things, because the longer that you diet, the more pronounced the adaptations are going to be. And so for us, we use a few different types of cycling. And again, this is dependent upon the person. What do they have coming up? We always talk with our clients, like what's on the radar for the next 2 or 3 weeks? What can you commit to and feel good about actually adhering to? Because that's a big piece too, is having a plan that is not adhered to is pretty much pointless, right? So we want to make sure that this is something you can adhere to. So what we'll generally do is say, maybe it's a 6-day where we're in that deficit or the cut, and then a 1-day refeed. Maybe it's a 10-day streak where we're in the deficit, and then a 3 or 4-day refeed. Maybe it's 2 weeks and then a 1-week maintenance. Maybe it's 3 weeks and a 1-week maintenance. Like, it really depends upon the person and how they are feeling. That's a big thing, is watching your biofeedback throughout this process. Let's say, for example, you chose, I'm going to go for the next 3 weeks in this deficit, but 2.5 weeks in, you realize, man, I am just on empty. Pull out of it a few days early. That's okay. Same thing as if you were going to do this for 6 weeks straight through with a 1-day refeed every week. Maybe you need to stop at week 4 and take 2 weeks at maintenance and then go back for another 4 weeks, because you want to maintain good biofeedback. You want to keep feeling good. Again, your body is going to send you those signals and you need to listen to them. So let's talk about what that looks like. Generally, when we're going into a fat loss phase, we're going 20 to 25% in a deficit. We don't love doing like 30%, 40%. Some people will go extreme. We really think anywhere no more than like 500 to 700 calories off of your maintenance. And we want to factor in other things there in terms of your lifestyle, right? Like maybe training slows down a little bit. Maybe you'd go for more walks and non-stressful movement rather than 5 days a week of high intensity. We'll change the training around this as well. And then that's how we kind of determine where we're going to implement the refeed days. So 20 to 25% is usually what we go off of. So let's say your maintenance is 2,000 calories. This is going to look like a cut intake of around 1,500 to 1,600 for you. That's a pretty safe bet that for a short period of time, you are not going to adapt in a negative way.
Yeah, absolutely. And then depending on the person and depending on like what their training looks like, their age, their, just like state of overall health is kind of how we'll determine how we want to periodize the fat loss phase in terms of days that we refeed or like weeks that we pull up to maintenance. I will say that if you are someone that trains a little bit more heavily, you're weightlifting relatively heavy, you train 4 to 5 days a week, you're someone that we would probably do more of a refeed day or multiple days a week, just to give those glycogen stores a little bit of a boost. So when you diet, your muscle glycogen stores deplete. Like, you guys, when you diet, you lose muscle mass. It's just part of the process. And we try to maintain as much as possible, but it's just kind of the truth of the fat. So this is an important fuel source for training sessions, energy, carbs. And so a decrease can kind of hurt training performance, and in turn can hurt muscle growth and can hurt kind of the body composition that we're shooting for. And so we typically implement a refeed, which is 1 to 3 days a week. And what these refeed looks like are usually coming from straight carbs. So these are usually like a 200 to 300 calorie bump of mostly carbs. So a lot of times what people will do is, like Liz was saying, they'll have, 6 days a week where we'll be in that calorie deficit. And then we'll take 1 day a week where we bump carbs only to help kind of refuel glycogen stores. And that helps people in terms of recovery, their training. We usually recommend putting it on like one of their heavier training days or a day leading into a heavier training day. And this allows for people to, one, mentally have a break. But the biggest thing here is, when we do these, and especially when we do the maintenance weeks, this is not like a YOLO. Like, no. Don't take that extra, 50 to 100 grams of carbs and go drink a bottle of wine and count that towards your carbs. Like, we need to be refueling the body with, I used to do that. It was fucking horrible. I was so bad.
We all did.
God, we all did. So bad. We talk about like, sure, maybe make like some pancakes that morning to have with some eggs, or like enjoy something, like maybe make a homemade pizza, or have like, sure, to have some extra rice, potatoes, a bowl of cereal, something like that. But we aren't just like going off the wires and going out to eat and ordering, a milkshake to get those extra 100 grams of carbs. That's not ideal. Especially if fat loss is your goal. We want to be using like as capably utilized carbs as possible. It's kind of the rule. You need about 48 plus hours to see hormonal increases from carb overfeeding. So sometimes with clients that are maybe more hormonally sensitive, or maybe are training pretty heavily, we might do like 2 to 3 days of a refeed every, 7 to 8 days. But those people that are training a little bit more heavily, I'm more likely to put refeed days in versus maintenance weeks, because usually with maintenance weeks, you go 2+ weeks of a calorie deficit. It's just a really long time.
Yeah. And so just kind of going back to reiterate what you mentioned about the refeed days being 200 to 300 calories of straight carbs, that's going to look like 50 to 75 grams. And again, that's going to depend upon the person, how big they are, what their training looks
more,
like.
For sure.
It could be more. Yeah. So if you're in a deficit and you're doing, let's say 150 grams of carbs per day, then on your refeed days, that's going to look like 200 to 225. Very dependent upon the person. So just wanted to kind of go back and reiterate that in terms of where the carbs come from. And then when we do determine the maintenance weeks or the diet breaks, that is where we bring somebody all the way back up to their maintenance intake. So let's do the math here for a moment. We talked about the example here being that you're burning 2,000 calories at your maintenance, and your deficit's going to be about that 1,600. If you take a refeed day or two, that's only, about halfway up, 200, 300 plus. That's like 1,800 calories. That's not all the way back up to your maintenance. So when we do an actual diet break or maintenance period for 4 days plus in between cuts, it is because that person is showing signs of negative, adaptation in the biofeedback. And so studies here have shown that this is going to reduce, or this is going to provide more positive results for weight loss with intermittent breaks, opposed to just this linear diet for 12 to 14 weeks. Yep. So there's a lot of ways to do this, and we wish that we could give you like a straight answer for your situation, but that's what we do with our clients. And this changes month to month with clients because it's so dependent upon how they are feeling and what their body is doing and how their results are moving, what they have coming up, what their stress levels are, their sleep, all those types of things. But the other big benefit here is that these diet breaks also give us a good mental break from the chronic stress of having to be rigorous, because when you're in a cut, we tell our clients, we want you in about 5 to 10 grams either way of your goal. From a macronutrient standpoint, right? And then again, depending upon the length of your fat loss phase, will determine how many of these breaks are beneficial for you, and how that can help. So in part 2, we will be back. We'll be talking about, maintenance, and then the 4th season, which is either your off season or it is your building season. Yeah.
And like you guys, all of this is dependent on a client's goals, their ability to adhere, how much weight they want to lose. Like this is so individual, but these are the concepts that we use with clients. This is why we do the periodization, because like Liz was saying, it's hard mentally to stay in a calorie deficit. And this is why people aren't successful with dieting long-term. This is why chronic dieters exist, and why like you never get to your goals, because mentally it's really freaking hard to do that. And that's why we are so careful putting clients into that, because we want to know mentally they are ready, like that they are ready to approach it in a positive mindset. They are ready to know that like you're going to be saying no to things. You're going to be restricting things. Like calorie deficits and fat loss phases are very intentional, which is why we don't do them constantly. It's why we are very specific with how, the time duration of them, and why we give diet breaks during them, because it's hard to say no to going out to eat sometimes for 14 weeks straight, to say no to the cookies every night for those things are hard. And so that's why the diet breaks are really helpful psychologically and physically to not have that adaptation happen. And this is a constant pivot with us and our clients. Like we were saying, if stress happens, if all these things happen, we need to pivot, we need to adjust. And that's the constant communication that happens with us and clients. So next video for sure, the most important phase, in my opinion, the maintenance phase, and what most people don't do well. So very excited to talk about that next time.